All right, so you're thinking about a career where you're not just keeping up with the latest medical discoveries, but you're actually explaining them to like the next generation of medical professionals.
It's very
Yeah,
exciting.
like you're shaping young minds.
Yes,
And that is the life of a healthcare specialist lecturer.
that's right.
And let me tell you something, it's about way more than just lecturing. We're going deep on this one today. We're using RoleCatcher. We're going to see if this path is the right one for you.
Yeah, and it's a path that is also changing as fast as medicine itself. And what's so fascinating is how much more is involved now, beyond that sort of classic image of just lecturing, right? This role is about research, it's about mentorship, it's about staying way ahead of the game in a field that just never stops changing.
Okay, let's unpack this a little bit.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher says that healthcare specialist lecturers need to be experts in not just their own little niche of the medical world, but also in the art of teaching.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's like this blend of knowing your stuff and being a good communicator.
Yeah, you got to be engaging. You're not just delivering facts, you're shaping the way these future doctors and nurses think, how they approach problems. I mean, think about explaining a new cancer treatment
Right.
to a student, and that student then goes on to use that knowledge to save a life.
That's what I love about these deep dives is like the ripple effect is massive. Now let's get real for a second. RoleCatcher's not afraid to tell you about the downsides, the challenges. They say burnout is a real risk.
Yeah.
I mean, you're juggling research, you're teaching, you're mentoring. I imagine the days could be pretty long.
It's a demanding field, there's no doubt about it. The key is finding that sweet spot between, following your passion, but also pacing yourself.
Right.
It's about being stimulated intellectually without burning the candle at both ends.
Right. It's like marathon training, but for your brain.
Yes, exactly.
And just like a marathon runner needs, the right fuel, the right shoes, RoleCatcher highlights some surprising skills that are essential for this job. Like you wouldn't think that reading comprehension would be so high up on the list.
Right.
But when you think about it.
It makes sense, right? It's not just about reading those medical journals.
Right.
You got to be able to understand complex research, look at the data, and then you got to synthesize it all into something that you can actually explain to somebody.
Right.
So you're like translating a foreign language, but that language is research.
It's research, yeah.
And you're making it understandable, engaging.
So you're not just a medical encyclopedia, you're an expert translator. You're a storyteller.
You got to get them excited about it.
Yes. And that makes the idea of like climbing the academic ladder even more interesting. Imagine going from lecturer to department head. What does that look like in healthcare education?
So you start by building up a really strong reputation for your teaching, for your research, and as a department head, now you can really influence the curriculum. You could secure funding for new programs.
That's amazing.
You could really shape the direction of healthcare education at your institution. So it's a leadership role with a big impact.
Yeah, and it's not just about climbing the ladder, right? It's about what your work does for the students, for the research, for the future of healthcare.
You hit the nail on the head. You are shaping the next generation of healthcare professionals, the people who will be taking care of patients. So the ripple effect we talked about, it goes way beyond the classroom.
It really does. And
Yeah.
now I know our listeners ready to jump into the nitty-gritty of actually landing a job in this field. And that's where RoleCatcher goes from being this helpful guide to your job hunting best friend.
Like a wingman.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've got this AI-powered CV analysis tool that sounds amazing. It sounds like a secret weapon for a competitive job market. What is the deal with that?
It's huge. In the academic world, standing out is so important. What RoleCatcher's AI does is it analyzes job descriptions really carefully and finds those keywords, those skills that employers are really looking for. It's like having an edge.
So it's like having a personal brand manager, but for your resume.
Exactly.
And speaking of standing out, RoleCatcher doesn't just help you polish your CV. They've got this treasure trove of practice interview questions, which I'm guessing is pretty crucial for making a good first impression.
Oh, for sure. It's not just about knowing the right answers. You have to show your passion, show your expertise. You need to show that you get what it takes to thrive in this fast-paced world of academia, and that's where RoleCatcher's resources come in.
It's like, you walk into the interview and it's like you've already had a practice run with a panel of experts who know the playbook, they know what the hiring committee wants.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. RoleCatcher even gives like specific examples, like what experience do you have in incorporating like technology into your teaching?
Which is a great point, actually, because technology, it's not just changing how we, do healthcare, it's changing how we teach it.
Yeah.
A healthcare specialist lecturer needs to be up to date on, like, the medical stuff, but also all the cool educational tools, that can bring that stuff to life for the students.
It's like having all these cool gadgets in your teacher tool belt.
Right.
You got simulations, virtual labs, all these interactive platforms.
Yeah, it's about being that tech-savvy educator, right? The
Yeah.
one who can create those aha moments, those unforgettable learning experiences.
Speaking of unforgettable, you know, RoleCatcher maps out this career path, and it's got serious upward mobility.
Hmm.
Like, imagine starting as a lecturer, but then, you know, working hard, dedicating yourself to teaching, to research, and then you become the department head.
Yeah, that's the big leagues, right?
Okay, department head. I mean, that sounds serious.
Yeah.
What kind of influence do you have at that level, to actually shape healthcare education?
So as a department head, you're in a real leadership role. You've got vision, right? You're overseeing the development of the curriculum. You're mentoring new faculty. You're out there securing grants for all the new and exciting research. You're at the forefront of training the next generation of healthcare heroes.
And RoleCatcher emphasizes that to stay ahead in this field, you got to be a lifelong learner.
Oh, absolutely.
He's like, they say, the learning never stops.
Right.
And that's especially true with how fast healthcare changes.
It's so true. Going to conferences, getting your research published, even going for more certifications, those things all show that you're serious about staying on the cutting edge.
You're not just keeping up, you're leading the pack.
Right.
It's that dedication that lets you give your students the best, the most current information. And it reminds me of something we talked about earlier, how RoleCatcher listed reading comprehension as a core skill.
Right, right.
It seems basic,
Mm-hmm.
but when you think about the mountains of research a healthcare specialist lecturer has to go through.
It's about those critical thinking skills, you see. You're not just reading, you're dissecting. You're really engaging with these complex medical studies, comparing different research methods, putting together findings from all sorts of sources.
Right, you can't just skim through it.
No, you have to be sharp, you have to be discerning, and you have to be able to explain it all clearly.
So you're like this healthcare knowledge detective. You're constantly on the hunt for those golden nuggets of insight to bring back to your students.
That's a great way to put it.
But let's zoom out for a second. We've talked about the impact on students, on research, but what about healthcare as a whole? What about the bigger picture? How does this job contribute to that?
It's like they're bridging the gap, right?
Yeah.
You've got academic research on one side, and then you've got what's actually happening with patients on the other. Healthcare specialists, lecturers, they take those complex research findings and make them understandable for the future doctors, the nurses, all the healthcare professionals.
They're connecting the dots between like groundbreaking discoveries and real-life patient care.
Exactly. They are the link in the chain.
And RoleCatcher points out that there are so many different paths into this role. It's not just doctors, it's nurses, it's public health specialists, people with backgrounds in psychology.
That's right, because healthcare has so many different facets.
Right.
And that's reflected in the variety of paths you can take to become a healthcare specialist lecturer.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what unites them all? A passion for teaching, a deep understanding of their area in healthcare, and that dedication to mentoring the next generation of leaders.
That's it. It's a powerful combination.
They're not just educators, they're mentors, they're researchers, they're champions for healthcare knowledge, pushing it forward. It's like they're shaping the future of healthcare, one lecture at a time, one research paper, one mentored student.
That's it.
There was something I thought was interesting. RoleCatcher mentioned collaborating with people from other universities.
Oh, yeah.
What does that look like? What do they actually do?
It's like this incredible exchange of ideas, right? You got these joint research projects, tackling these huge healthcare challenges, people sharing their innovative teaching methods for some of these really tough medical concepts,
Oh, wow.
or even presenting, these groundbreaking findings at these big international conferences.
Right.
It's like a global network of these passionate educators all pushing the boundaries of what we know about healthcare.
It's like a global brain trust.
Yeah,
But for healthcare education, that's amazing.
exactly.
And it really shows you how collaborative this whole field is.
Yeah, and RoleCatcher also highlighted how this collaboration often goes beyond just universities,
Oh, really?
Healthcare specialists, lecturers, working with hospitals, clinics, even government agencies,
Yeah.
to put that research into action, find real-world solutions.
So it's not just about, teaching the next generation. It's about shaping the future of healthcare itself. That's incredible.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. What a legacy to be a part of.
It really is.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's clear that becoming a healthcare specialist lecturer, it's not easy.
It's not.
It's demanding, it's challenging, but it sounds incredibly rewarding.
Oh, it is. It's for those people who really thrive on pushing the limits, always learning, always growing, and inspiring others to do the same.
If you're up for the challenge, RoleCatcher has your back. They've got the insights, the tools, everything you need to get started. This could be your first step towards a career that's both intellectually stimulating and, honestly, really meaningful.
It could be.
And as you start exploring this path, here's something to think about.
Huh?
What unique perspective do you bring to the table? What experience do you have that can help you really thrive in healthcare education?
Great question.
Because the answer just might be the key to unlocking your potential in this dynamic and impactful field.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.
I think it's a